I saw it coming. A few hours before it happened, my phone rang. His name lit up on my screen, and I remember just staring at it until the phone stopped ringing. I'll call him back later, I told myself. But deep down, I knew why he was calling. And I knew I wasn't ready to hear it. When I was 15, I lost one of my close friends to suicide. And a few hours before it happened, he called me. And I didn't answer. That moment stayed with me logically, not just as grief, but as something heavier, like a weight I didn't know how to carry or how to let go of. I simply didn't know what to do, so for years I did nothing. I was waiting for someone to come and fix it, someone to tell me what to do. Nobody came. And at a certain point, I stopped expecting anyone would, because maybe secretly I knew nobody was supposed to. And that thought, over time, turned into a belief, one that I still carry with me today. Nobody's coming to save you. Not from the hard things, not from the guilt, not from yourself. And once I truly accepted that, everything changed. It didn't feel heavy, it felt clear. If it was up to me, that meant I had the power. And I've come to realize that this feeling that I had the years before of feeling stuck, like things were out of my control, and I quite frankly didn't even trust myself to act, isn't just my story. It's what many of us are feeling today. Research shows that over 60% of the young adults worldwide feel overwhelmed by the state of the world. And they're not acting, not because they don't care, but because they simply think it won't make a difference. We're all overwhelmed, right? Not just by the big things, by the flood of small things, and how they're constantly fighting for our attention. Take a typical minute on your phone. You open your phone, first scroll, democracy collapsing in real time. Next scroll, a reel on how to make overnight oats. Because if the world is falling apart, at least my aesthetically pleasing breakfast will keep the world together. And that's not even a full minute in an entire day, a day that's filled with so much information and so many decisions. Because every day we make around 35,000 decisions. What to wear, what to eat, what to buy, who to text back, whether to add an exclamation mark or sound like a psychopath and start a passive-aggressive war you didn't mean to fight. And on top of that, the big problems seem to keep on coming. Another headline, another crisis, another thing nobody seems to fix. So we freeze. We scroll, we wait, waiting for someone else to come and fix it. And I'm going to be very honest with you all today. I had the same feeling while writing this talk. I almost canceled. Sorry, organizers, I guess that's news for you too. I wanted it to be good, I wanted it to matter, and the more I cared, the less I felt like my story was worth telling. So I rewrote my draft at least 100 times. 1 minute I was furiously typing away, the next I was staring into the void like I just uncovered a massive conspiracy. I needed clarity, so I did what any sane adult in my position would do. I asked ChatGPT. Then I asked ChatGPT whether asking ChatGPT made any sense. Next thing I knew, it was 2 a.m. and I was in a deep existential spiral. And that's when I realized this exact feeling is what I'm supposed to talk about today. So that's why I'm here today, to challenge the dangerous idea that someone else is coming to save us. They won't. And I'm here to show you why that's the best thing that could have happened. Life taught me that waiting leads nowhere, and if I'm already making 1,000 decisions a day, that means I'm in control to make better ones. Along the way, I've learned 3 lessons that help me turn this insight into action. They're simple, but they help me, so I'm sharing them today, so hopefully they'll help you too. It was just after the 2008 financial crisis. The world knew something had to change. Nobody was doing anything about it. Banks, politicians, regulators, they were all just pointing fingers, and nobody was doing a damn thing. And I knew I didn't want to just be talking about the problem, I wanted to help fix it. That's why I joined bunq. We were a small, passionate team with one shared vision: fix what's broken. We kept asking ourselves, what can we do better? And then we did, because we knew nothing would change unless we made it happen. So we built a bank from scratch, one that actually puts the people first. And it paid off. Today, we're the 2nd largest neobank in Europe. And I helped shape the journey as much as it shaped me. When I joined, I was answering user tickets. Now I'm one of the youngest board members in the industry. And there was no plan, no roadmap for how I was going to get there. Just like bunq, I kept questioning how things were done, including how I did them. Which brings me to my first lesson. If you want to grow, start asking yourself, where am I the problem? When things go wrong, we like to blame everything. The weather, the universe, Mercury in retrograde. We'd rather point at a planet 91 million kilometers away than ask ourselves, what could I have done differently? And let's be honest. Most of the times, the problem is actually you. Not you specifically, you. You look kind of decent. Maybe you're missing a skill and you're pretending that you don't. Maybe you're avoiding a hard conversation. Maybe you scroll instead of doing the work. Most limits aren't out there, they're here. In your excuses, your patterns, the old versions of yourself that feel very comfortable, but are no longer evolving. Because if no one's coming to fix things, the real question remains, are you willing to fix them yourself? I consider myself fortunate to have grown up in a family where achievement wasn't just encouraged, it was practically an Olympic sport. Our family WhatsApp, I wouldn't really call it a chat. It's more like a LinkedIn feed. High performance ecosystem. So growing up, I did nothing without a plan. I was going to study law and be wildly successful at it, of course. And then I made a decision that felt very radical at the time, because I started asking myself a question. I was like, why? Why am I studying law? I don't like it. I'm just doing it because it will look good. So I dropped the plan and I chose Spanish. I was going to study Spanish. And you're probably thinking, who cares, you're studying Spanish. But for someone who never did anything without a plan, this felt like driving off a cliff without a seatbelt on. Studying something just because I liked it, get a grip. But this was the first time I stopped doing what was expected and started doing something that actually felt like me, which brings me to my second lesson. Success that looks good but doesn't feel good isn't really success at all. Some of you here might already be wondering about how today's choices might end up looking on your LinkedIn profile later. Apart from me telling you, don't. I'd like to invite you to ask yourself a different question. Is this what I actually want? Or is this what I think is expected of me? Psychologists call this shifting from an external locus to an internal locus of control. In other words, life doesn't just happen to you, you make it happen. And once you start doing that, it will take you into quite some unexpected places. So it did to me as well. As an example, for most of my life, I hated conflict. I hated it. So I did what I thought was a very reasonable next step. I wanted to work on it. So I decided to sign up for a kickboxing fight. Scared the hell out of me. People told me not to do it. So I was like, well, in that case, I definitely need to do it. During that fight, I found out that freezing is my go-to fight or flight response. I mean, I guess I always kind of knew, but now I had a mild concussion to prove it. And all jokes aside, in that moment, I stopped avoiding conflict and I started choosing it on purpose, almost every single day. Which brings me here today. An introvert giving a TED talk. I probably need to hibernate a week after this, but I guess we're having fun. I see some people, they're like, yeah, me too. So choose your own path, not what's expected, because if you're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to live the life you actually want to live, you'll be waiting forever. This is me running my first marathon. The watermark is still in the picture, I'm very aware of that, because I am too proud to pay for a picture where I look like that. I remember this moment clearly. We were like 33 kilometers in. I hit the famous wall. My toenail was hanging on by a thread. My dignity not far behind it. I was in a lot of pain. But quitting wasn't an option because pain was part of the deal. Because choosing a different path is one thing. The real test is whether you will keep going when things get hard. Which brings me to my third and final lesson, which is not about being the fastest, the smartest, or the strongest. It's about discipline. The simple ability to keep going. From a very young age, I didn't want to rely on anyone for anything, not for money or anything. And to me, that was never about success. To me, it was about the simple fact, if I commit to something, I see it through. If I start, I finish. Because resilience isn't something that you're born with, it's something you train. Athletes don't push through pain because they're superhuman. They do so because they've practiced it over and over again. And the same goes for everything in life. Challenges, rejection, failure. Every time you push through, you teach your brain, this is what we do. So every time things get hard, I tell myself, quite literally, I look a bit insane when I do it, I am a person who keeps going. And then I do. Because nobody is coming to drag you past that finish line. You show up, you put in the work. That's the foundation, and without that foundation, everything else crumbles. A couple years ago, I realized I had built that foundation. I was sitting at a candlelight concert in New York. The music was soft, everything around me quiet. And for the first time in a long time, so was my mind. When a thought hit me out of nowhere. What would my friend think? What would my childhood friend think if he could see me now? Not weighed down by everything that once felt so heavy. And then it clicked, the weight. It was gone. I wasn't carrying it anymore. I realized I hadn't just survived, I had built resilience. Because this isn't some sad story about how nobody's coming to save you. It's a story about hope, power, about what happens when you take ownership. Because nobody's coming, but that's not the bad news, that's the good news. Once you realize that, you can challenge what's holding you back, even if it's yourself. You can choose your own path, not the safe one. And you can keep going, whatever comes your way. We love talking about ripple effects. But every ripple starts with a single drop. Without that drop, nothing happens. So what's yours? A promise to yourself, a long postponed idea, a hard conversation, a new habit? Maybe your first step is small, or maybe that small step becomes the boldest move you ever make. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. Because real change never starts in boardrooms or parliaments. It starts with people taking steps. Because no one's coming to build your future or fix the world the way you want to see it. You either create it or you don't. So before you go back into the noise and the thousands of notifications and the chaos, I'll leave you with just one question. What's your first step going to be?